Next question is from Powderpop. How resilient is Resonite against model ripping? I've heard that Resonite stores models in mesh X. Would you say this is a form of security through obscurity? Pretty much every single game or software platform, like security by obscurity is the best you can get. There's like no way, if you want the model to be displayed and rendered, it needs to be on the machine. It needs to be, present in some format, but at some point it needs to be decoded and put onto the GPU so it can be displayed, which means the code to actually decode it is also present on your system. So the only thing preventing someone from ripping it is figuring out like where that system is, and there's only a question of time. So there's no platform, there's no software, there's no game that can do better than security by obscurity on this kind of thing. Like, look at it this way. There's like, games that took hundreds of millions of dollars to develop. And they use, they used anti-cheat software. They use like, DRM that also cost like, millions, dozens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to implement. And people still rip models out of these games. Like, there's not really a way you can like, prevent it from happening. So yes, it is a security to obscurity, but you literally cannot get better than that. Like, the only way to get better than that would be for the user to not have the model. And if you wanted to do that, the only way you could really realistically do that is that you would actually never run the game on the user's computer. You would run it on some cloud server that you trust, and then stream the video to the user. But that would have like latency, that would have like huge infrastructure costs. So like it's not realistic. So yeah, like it's just a matter of people taking time to crack the format and put things together. There's one thing that we can do that it doesn't prevent the ripping, but it prevents misuse, and it's going to be the license system, because the license system that we are planning to implement, it's going to say this asset is owned by this user, and it's going to use like some hashing so it can determine this is the same asset. So if you rip something and then you try to use it on Resonite again, Resonite will be able to determine this is the same asset, you're not allowed to use it. And it can be some mechanisms, like even if you modify it a little bit, it's gonna be like, okay, like it's similar asset, I'm gonna prevent you from using it. If you try to modify your client, the other clients, if you try to join worlds, you don't have control over those, so those can check and they can be, okay, this user's trying to use this asset, do they have permission to do that? They don't, I'm gonna kick them out. So that makes it much harder for the user to actually do something with it. So it doesn't prevent the ripping, but it helps, it makes the life more difficult for people ripping to actually use the model. So it kind of decreases, sort of the incentive to rip things, because now you have to deal with more. And the other aspect is because even this system is not going to be perfect. Like, somebody can rip something and modify it enough so the system will think it's a different, asset, it's a different texture, different mesh. We'll have like a system to report it. So like if somebody reports like this person's using a stolen asset, we can look at them and be like, okay, these are actually the same, even though the system doesn't think it's the same. Like, we have a human verify, these are the same ones. We're gonna mark this one as the same, make it so the user cannot use it, and maybe they also get some kind of punishment. They get like banned or something for ripping ripping assets. So the main thing we can really do is make people's life more difficult with stuff like that. But ultimately, we cannot promise that the models cannot be ripped. But also nobody else can make that promise. And if they do, I don't think they're being honest. Sorry, we're gonna say something.
Oh no, I forgot. I totally forgot. But no, I agree. Like there really is no other platform that can say something like that. I like can't think of one that says that in good faith.
Yeah, yeah, it's a thing. Like, and for us, like, it's like we just want to be honest about it. Like what options we offer and what we want to do in the future. And one thing we know for sure is like we cannot prevent, you know, we cannot prevent the raping from happening altogether, but we can do things to fight it and to make like the life of people who rape things like more difficult. But there's nothing that would give you anything better than security through obscurity. Like like for some things, that's the best you can get. And even then, like it becomes a space race because it's like if people figure stuff out, okay, maybe we can change things up. But there's only so much we know we can do because if we change it up, it just takes time for somebody to figure a different way, how to attack the new system, and it just becomes this never-ending, like space race.